Hi, welcome to the next edition of Watching the Standard Meta. So today we have four decks to talk about, one of which I think is a newer deck that basically just got boosted up by Final Fantasy. So that's kind of interesting. And yeah, I think this is going to be a pretty interesting discussion. There's a lot of shifts going up in this current meta and a lot of shifts going down, like really hardcore down and really hardcore up. So we're going to see how this actually pans out. If you guys like this kind of content, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe. We're on our way to 1,000 subs. Let's get there together. Let's get into the meta shifts and the four decks that I have for you guys today. So Dimir Midrange is taking it up at 18%. And the deck that I had last week that I said was probably going to be the best deck in the format is it Cauldron, shooting up 6% at basically about 10 and three quarters. Then we have a decent amount of rogue decks, but then again, this is because the meta hasn't really changed all that much or had its identity since the actual BNR. So we have Is It Prowess coming, making a resurgence back. So that's pretty interesting. The fact that I guess those bands didn't really keep it down. We have Golgari Midrange getting a slight bump. Tokens getting a huge bump from two different deck lists. So basically, it's like 10% is tokens. There's no point of splitting them up between the Boros and the white tokens. Slight bump for Delirium, a huge bump for Gruul Aggro. So I'm assuming this is probably like back like the old days where we had the talent and plus like the mice package a little bit. We have a Naya Yuna. I believe this is a ramp deck, getting a slight bump. Control dropping. Mono green counters. I'm assuming this is the landfall deck potentially, or it could be just counters. Either way, I'm all in for it. Sadly, I didn't really see that deck in the 5.0's dumps. But what are you going to do? Golgari Roots dropping off, so people. Omniscience coming back. That can't be right. That can't be right. I mean, who's playing Omniscience? I guess there's might be some substitutes you could do for the Awakening. Jeskai Control dropping, Oculus dropping, Burn getting a little bit of traction, but not much. Red Aggro getting a little bit of traction. And so is Cage, right? So the four decks I've talked about, first one I'm talking about, of course, is the Burn deck. So this deck, we have Bolt Wave, we have Nemesis, we have Show Off, Swift Spear, Claw, Burst Lightnings, we got our Boros Charms, our Helixes, the new basically Exile 2 draw basically, Case for the grindy matchups, Shock for a little bit of additional burn. We do have Starting Town because this deck is a hyper aggressive deck, and it doesn't really matter that you can just tap this for colorless to pay for your Nemesis or your Show Off, and you're fine with that. Basically, it's better than a Battlefield Forge. Sideboard, we have some Fire Magics for a little bit of small sweepers, probably good against Elves. Rescue, a little bit of protection for our main threats like a Show Off. Destroy Evil for enchantment removal. Get Lost for enchantments and Planeswalkers. Maybe creatures if you really want to, but creatures are usually easier to remove. We have Rest in Peace for Graveyard Hate, Shelter by Ghost, preferably for your creature removal, especially against aggro. Forge for the grindy matchups where we expect them to have a lot of target removal for our threats. We bring in Forge, it's harder to answer. Hopefully, people aren't on Artifact Hate like they were before because of Cutter being gone. And another Case for the grindy matchups. So pretty solid there. I really like this deck. It's kind of like a Pioneer version. I imagine once we get the next set, you're going to literally be able to cut the Forges. I believe they rotate, and you dump in the Shocks. Actually, I think the Fastlands Fastlands are fine, right? They're fine. OTJ is fine. So yeah, so you just put Shocks in. Boom. A deck is updated for next release. I don't think any other card here rotates. Yeah. So you might actually be able to play more Forges now, right? Because you have Shocks, so we're more likely to turn this on. Let's get into the next list. Next, we have this Selesnya counters ish with Bill. We have Elspeth puts counters on stuff. So does Talent. Duelist works quite well with that. So this is a deck that will be rotating because of Duelist. Scavenger puts counters on it when we put our enchantments down. Innocence Zac Fair is a nice way to protect our stuff, like our Calyx, which is actually really important in the deck. Overlord for a nice finisher, so we get a counter off of it, and we get two 1 bodies. And then we have Authority of the Console for aggro. Pick your poison for artifacts and enchantments. Get lost for enchantments and planeswalkers. Invasion for a little bit of hand disruption to push off sweepers, ideally. And also potentially sweepers that could hit our enchantments and stuff. Rest in Peace for Graveyard Hate. Loran for a little bit of artifact and enchantment removal. And that is Selesnya counters, enchantment counters for standard. If you want to see the Pioneer video, check it out. The link is down in the description for the other channel. And you could pay attention to this episode of watching the Pioneer meta, which airs exactly the same time as this one. So let's get into the next deck. So 5-color Legends. This was a deck in Pioneer for quite some time. And now we have one for Standard. We have Cecil, Honest, which is like the more combo pieces with Rona. This deck will be rotating pretty quickly, though, because of Rona, which is your main combo piece. We have Jarona, which is a nice little combo piece with a little bit of Graveyard Hate. And Inti also, I believe, rotates. We have Jill and Joshua, I believe. So those are nice little new cards from Final Fantasy. Joa also rotates, I believe, this coming year. But in actually a few months, a few weeks probably. Then we have Relic of Legends. Nice way to just kind of go a little bit of comboing with your Rona. Untaps it, tap it. More mana. So we tap it, the Relic on the Rona for more mana, cast something else. With Honest Roosting, maybe we can cast a lot of 2-drops for free, which is kind of nice. Sideboard, we have Graveyard Hate, Get Lost, Hope. I'm not sure about this card. I haven't caught up with Final Fantasy. This is clearly a Final Fantasy card. So you can get at me in the comments because I don't know this card. Loran, Sorok, pretty reasonable here. Artifact enchantment removal. Against removal, you have this, so where you can draw cards as they remove them. Urutai is a nice way to get counters, remove a threat. And then our Sigarda is a nice way to give hexproof and a little bit of card advantage if our top card is an angel or human, which I think for the most part, most of our stuff are humans. So it works really well there for a card advantage piece. We get to play our humans off the top of our library. You're not going to be really upset with that, right? Actually, we're legendary humans. So let me know in the comment section what you guys think about all these lists, where we get into the last list, which I think should be pretty fine post-rotation. Let's get into that one. So post-rotation, we have this green landfall deck with Bill, Chukos, Druids. We have Chocobos here too, so we have 2 sets of Chocobos. A little bit of extra land counters with our Hydra. Also, Lockhart is a good way of doubling its power multiple times. Works really well with Bristly Bill. For fetches, we have Tunnel and Passage. We have Royal Treatment, Veil, and Overprotect for our protective spells. Sideboard, we have Artifact, Enchantment Removal, and potentially Draw a card. With Fungus, Artifact and Enchantments, plus Big Flyer Removal. Recruit is a nice way to hate on target removal. So if they answer a threat, we get to move counter somewhere else. Lantern, solid graveyard hate piece. Nisa, nice way to go as a go long card. So we could, at the very end, we could bring this in after they answer our Hydras, our Lockharts, our Bristly Bills. Drop down a Nisa, just pump out XX tokens, and you're happy. A little bit of removal with Tail Swipe. Since we are green, we don't really have traditional removal like black does or white. So we have to use our threats to actually KO our opponent's threats. But that is all the decks I have to talk about for today. Where do you guys think these decks stack up in the current meta? Are you planning on building, or at least playing? Are you planning at least trying and playing 5-color Legends before it rotates? Because that's a very short window, I believe, before the next set drops. Are you thinking about trying out the 5-color Legends, Humans Legends? But other than that, this deck looks like a nice deck to start with next season. Is green finally back on the menu? Let me know all that in the comment section. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe before you head out that door. I'll talk to you guys next time.